Hey, what's going on, guys? Rony Boney here. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm interviewing something I wanted to do since I discovered these evolved settings was to interview the creator. So I'm talking to Smartin427, the creator of both the maps and the game modes for the evolved settings. So thanks for coming on, Smartin. I really do appreciate it.
No problem. I'm both very flattered and very humbled. This is the first time I've ever gotten to do something like this. So,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so I mean, thanks again, man. So I think maybe to start off with, to talk about your Halo background.
Well, this one's a pretty unique story. It should help. I hope it helps people see me as being a bit more optimistic instead of just being your usual toxic forum guy. I've been playing Halo since fall 2005.
Well,
Back in the Halo 2 days. I first got introduced at my church youth group. You know, it was kind of a peer pressure thing at the time. But you know, they had two Xboxes and two copies of Halo 2, and like, you know, it was a church youth group, they didn't want no M-rated games, except Halo was allowed because the pastor, quote unquote, said, because I play it too. That was really fun. They did that like every Sunday morning for about 2 straight years.
wow.
Until about Halo 3 came out, and then it didn't quite want to spend money on 360, so it kind of died down after that.
Yeah.
I did Xbox Live for, however, until October 2012, about a month before Halo 4 came out. Up until then, I mostly just had to play the Halo 1 and Halo 2 campaigns over and over again. I still love them to this day.
Wow.
Believe it or not. Legendary or not. But being that I didn't get any online experience until 2012, that pretty much makes it so that even though I technically started with the first couple games, mostly Halo 2, but I love the CD campaign. You can generally call me a Halo 4 kid, and I know some people will be, oh, I'm so sorry for you. But at the same time, like I loved the game when it came out. You know, I maybe didn't know any better, arguably, but you know, I thought things like sprint made perfect sense to be a default trait. You know,
Yeah.
I loved loadouts and all that.
So you missed out on Halo 3 and everything, and like the online community there with classic settings and.
Yeah, I mean, I got used to them playing campaigns, but you know, that's slightly different from multiplayer.
Yeah.
You feel that the quality of the campaigns generally go hand in hand a bit with the quality of the multiplayer. But that's kind of a separate topic.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was playing Halo 4. You know, I initially had lots of fun. You know, being able to start with the BR and a plasma pistol and noob combo people, and then plasma grenades to stick people. It was great. Kind of missed those oblivious days actually, but I got invited to a clan and ended up joining. They were doing tournaments, and given it's no MLG style tournament, you know, it's not that high level.
Yeah.
Given that I thought it was, that's how noobish I was. Got on a team. We beat our first team, but then the next team just wiped us off the floor.
Wow.
Like see the 15 game after game, and like that was kind of an awakening, or no, more an enlightenment at the time, because I was just, wow, I'm not good at this game. I thought I was. But a cool experience with that is one of the guys on that team I actually became good friends with on the enemy team that wrecked us, and he would train me in 1v1s, and he would show me what he was doing, why he was doing it. You know, as he was killing me, he'd be like, "Alright, stop shooting. I'm gonna show you this."
Yeah.
That's cool. My game skill at least tripled in the course of 6 months.
Nice.
And it was a great experience. And a big part of my story here is, as I was getting better, I started noticing why people hated things. Like, for instance, sprint. I started noticing how annoying it was trying to get to a position and being shot and not being able to shoot back.
Yeah.
Or trying to shoot back and not being able to get there very fast.
Yeah.
being that the settings he would train me on were generally BR only stars with frags, I couldn't, uh, and no radar.
Yeah.
And given very used to playing with radar at the time, so I was paranoid at first.
Were they octagon settings or?
No, it was like 1v1 settings on like Sanctuary,
Oh, okay.
Port Sanctuary for Halo 4, and on Haven.
Oh, I did that
Uh,
as well. I did so many 1v1s versus a friend of mine, Boxer, on Haven. He 15 0'd me the first time it ever happened, and then throughout the course of the year, I played him until I was able to beat him, and then we were on an even playing field. So I can see where you're coming from. I can.
Yeah, it was a great experience, but I learned I couldn't rely on my noob combo. I couldn't rely on my stickies. I couldn't even rely on radar or any armor abilities since I didn't spawn with them.
Yeah.
But as I started to get better, I started realizing that I didn't really necessarily need that stuff to begin with.
Yeah.
I was able to play. I started like Promethean Vision, for instance, eventually became completely useless to me because since I didn't for matchmaking, Halo 4 matchmaking, eventually was able to just use the radar to know exactly where to aim. It was very big, precise radar.
Yeah.
And then after getting used to that, I eventually moved to getting a lot more proficient without radar. You know, I learned how to bounce my frags properly. I learned how to put enough shots on people to kill them straight with the BR and not need them weakened first.
Yeah.
Melee or new. Given I still appreciate like certain aspects of that extra stuff to give you the advantage, but I definitely understand now that's not necessary.
Yeah.
At least spawn, for instance.
It shortens it widens the skill curve instead of, in my opinion anyway, instead of shortening it. That if someone has, Promethean vision, they basically see what you're doing. Whereas someone that knows how to, and I like the point you brought up about Promethean vision, that even if someone has Promethean vision, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the gun battle, because if someone knows how to play off somebody, it doesn't matter if you can see through walls. They still have that dot in their radar, and they still know where you're coming from and probably what you're going to do before you even do it.
I still enjoy Halo 4 to this day because of my first experience of being a noob. At the same time, I definitely recognize the flaws with it as I got better over time. I'm still not the greatest player, mind you.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot.
So that's kind of impressive in that context, dude, that you started off your multiplayer for Halo with Halo 4, and yet you can still be the person that creates classic settings for Halo 5 because you think they work better, as opposed to, and like, no one will call you a Halo 4 kid now that you've created these settings, I can tell you that. It's...
Yeah, people, there's been a couple of people who have asked, like, what Halo did you start with? And they're like, what? But it's great.
But that's nice, so that gives hope for the community, and that's one of the main reasons I think your settings are so good. It's because it will give people that like these modern mechanics it'll give them the realization that there is a different way of playing, and it's not exactly, it may not exactly be the same as the classic way, but compared to the vanilla settings, it works very, very well, and it provides them that alternative that maybe they've never experienced, that you were able to experience because you 1v1'd and you were able to see what what Halo really played like when you were put under pressure by just one other person.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of pressure, I'll tell you.
Yeah, hands sweating. So that kind of leads me into, like, what do you think about Halo 5's mechanics, and why did you make the settings? Like, what kind of spurred you on to make the settings?
Well, in regards to Halo 5, initially I was still pretty optimistic about it, especially once again coming from Halo 4. Given by the time Halo 5 was announced, I had pretty much generally made the switch to generally prefer classic settings. I was so optimistic about coming from Halo 4. So like, surely it'd be better, more refined. Hopefully they would have learned. But ultimately, the overall experience just it it's really weird. The way I can describe Halo, trying to play Halo 5, you can't take it seriously, but it won't let you relax. And like, you got a lot of excess abilities. Um,
Yeah.
that the allow that is the one of the biggest reasons it's excess is because of the convoluted control scheme. They could have easily tied a bunch of things to thrust, like say thrust plus melee would equal Spartan charge instead of having to sprint and then melee. That's awkward Spartan charge animation.
Yeah.
No, etc. They could have streamlined the controls a lot better just to start off with. That's another thing that makes it hard to pick up and play. Especially if you haven't played a while, you have to remember, oh wait, I have to do this, this, and this, and this game to even to keep up. Things like sprint. I thought the infinite sprint thing was actually a good idea. In a game like Halo, if you're gonna have it, it being infinite, at least keeps the pace consistent, I would say. But at the same time, with the way it's been so heavily nerfed, with the anti-shield recharge, and the even getting knocked out of sprint as well, it's almost like, what's the point? You see in Halo 5, people don't really use sprint to run away pretty much at all. They finally balanced it for that aspect, yes, but then at the same time, why even bother having it?
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
Exactly. If it's like getting yourself 2 to 3 seconds faster into battle, then why not make maps smaller?
Exactly. And a lot of that ties into the other abilities, but I don't want to go too in depth. The other big thing that really turned me off of Halo 5, just trying to play casually, and this is a big one, was the really short radar range of
18, isn't it? 18 meters.
And this is especially coming from Halo 4, where it's 40 meters, which is more than twice whatever Halo 5 is. And I say you can't quite take it seriously, but it's hard to relax when you're just trying to sit and stare at your radar like any noob would.
Yeah.
But you don't know someone's behind you until you're already getting Spartan charges in the back. And
Yeah.
like, wow, really? It would have been nice to know this.
Yeah.
And then that combined with the way Clamber allows you to get anywhere and everywhere with excessive ease.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be so bad if you couldn't clamber any higher than you could crouch jump. It would be a lot easier to tolerate if it were balanced like that. But unfortunately, it's not. And the map design is just pretty much designed as a maze anywhere. There's always like 3, 4, or 5 angles to any one spot for you to get shot from as well. The angles you can get shot from the Halo 5 are really awkward. There's no real like, oh, I'm safe here. I'm safe here in this cover. Only thing you have to worry about is being naded out. Now, unfortunately, pretty much every map is stretched out in such a way as to make it so you can get shot by like 3 different angles. Take Truth, for example. If you look at Midshipman Heretic from the original games, if you're on, say, the flag stand in one of the bases, there's only about 4 ways on to the second floor of the base. And that is from either side, coming from the tower, the front window, and the lift in the back.
Yeah.
That's only 4 angles. Halo 5 almost doubles that by also adding another jump up opposite the lift, and then 2 more windows.
Yep.
So that puts it up to 7 more angles that someone can come at you, and that's pretty much how a lot of the maps are designed. Overall, I wouldn't mind Halo 5 as much if, for one thing, just as it is, to be able to play it casually if the radar was increased significantly, and if the controls were a lot more streamlined.
The radar range for me was a huge a huge reason why I had to stop playing arena was that the mechanics. It wasn't that I didn't want to compete. I did want to like play it at a high level, and I tried to play that for the first couple of months of Halo 5, but I couldn't, knowing that the radar range was 18 meters and Warzone was 24. So I moved over to Warzone then for the next, from like the January of last year until maybe March or so, or April. And then I couldn't, I maxed out all my gear and I just couldn't play it anymore. There was nothing left for me. I didn't really like the mechanics. I was just trying to max out my stuff to kind of feel like I had played the experience. And
Yeah.
I definitely think though that the radar range in Warzone works a lot better than like you were saying. You don't even have a chance to counter a Spartan charge sometimes, because somebody could like maybe see a blip on the radar, know that you're going to be coming like to a certain location where they can crouch, and then it's like a 1 or 2 second just lead up into their charge, and they could just knock you off the map, or just pretty much get the slip on you and get you one shot. Which I think you should never promote people sprinting directly at people in any game. Like, you do that in Call of Duty or Battlefield, most of the time you're gonna fucking die if you're trying to go in for a melee like head on, trying to just get someone. And just because Halo has shields doesn't mean that we should still be promoting that type of gameplay, because you can maybe get away with tanking 1 or 2 hits. It incentivizes just a real sloppy way of play, in my opinion, that you didn't see in some of the older games.
A big thing whenever some of the guys in the Evolve Discord, they play BTB in Halo 5 pretty reasonable bit.
Hmm.
Uh, they don't necessarily like Halo 5, but they just play it with friends because it's with friends, right?
Yeah.
Every time they come back to Evolve, they're always they notice themselves overcommitting because they can't like thrust back.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So
I think just in general the aiming is crazy. That like at mid range it feels good, but then long range it's fine. It's manageable. Then as soon as someone starts closing the gap on you, it's like you either have to have a close range weapon to deal with that, like a plasma rifle or your assault rifle, which is why I think that they had this whole utility weapon versus your having your pistol and your assault rifle. That they built this around having like one weapon for close range, one for longish, shortish, medium, long range, whatever it is. I don't think it works. I think the BR having your everyman weapon was something that I know people complained about it, saying that everyone voted for BR gameplay, but I think BR gameplay made Halo really what it was.
Yeah. But back to the aiming. I specify CQC because that's where it's exaggerated the most. But that makes it pretty tough because a lot of times it's hard to tell. Did you miss that, or did the game just not let you shoot where you want to?
Yeah.
It can be pretty frustrating. I miss being able to just complain about things like host advantage instead of complain that I couldn't put my aimer where I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But what offsets this and makes it really annoying, even more annoying, is the fact that the magnetism on weapons is so high. So if you catch someone in CQC, it can be an extremely awkward and long fight just because you both are struggling to aim and you're both missing a lot of shots, right?
Mm.
But especially at mid range, if you catch someone off guard or you get caught off guard, it's almost inescapable because the mid range magnetism is so high that you pretty much don't have to move your aimer at all. You can just pull the trigger. Magnetism will do the work, and it's pretty much a guaranteed kill.
Do you think that's because 343 tried to design the thruster pack as one of those kind of like don't get in a close quarters engagement, just thrust back away and bring it back to that medium range engagement distance?
I'm gonna guess that's something like that. I went into it, but I can't say for sure.
Mm.
Well, it's really weird, especially coming from Halo 4, where it's often touted as having the best aiming in the series. Um, which is like the one like one of the few things the last game was praised for. Um, they somehow broke it. What?
Yeah.
Not sure. It's really unfortunate. I'm still not sure what happened with it. Not sure if it was just a bug or if they just had a different idea. But the experience that's currently there for it in Halo 5 is definitely one of the most another one of the most frustrating things, and it's one of the few things that also makes Evolved kind of hard to play at times too, because
Mm.
with faster movement and strafe excel, CDC fights are even more awkward, and since you can't thrust out of the way, it can sometimes be even harder to avoid getting destroyed in the back.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but I would say probably enough of that.
So then, from all of that, what was your development process then? What was your thinking when you went into the custom settings and you found out that you could turn off all the abilities and sprint and you could up like the movement speed and the gravity and things like that? What was your process for going through all of that and coming up with the settings like they currently are now?
Right. Well, I'm going to admit, initially I was wondering if there was any way to streamline the default Halo 5 mechanics, like uh, uh, tying everything to say thrust, like thrust plus this allows you to do that, and that's basically a simplified control scheme instead of having 5 extra buttons for stabilize, clamber,
Yeah.
and whatnot. But unfortunately, Halo 5 does not allow the custom options for that, so uh, I ultimately decided to just go back to the basics um, as far as abilities go. And a big part of this was the fact that, especially over on TeamBeyond.net, where I usually lurk and read,
Yeah.
uh, generally probably one of the more competitively minded communities. So the people that are going to complain about default Halo 5 the most, yeah. Uh, the people that are going to want classic style things the most, yeah. That's kind of where I read most of my stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, a lot of that did also help me understand a lot of things as well. But a couple of big things I noticed is people were uh, wanting classic sayings, but I didn't really notice there were very many people trying to promote them.
Yeah.
I originally started back March of 2016 to try and do some classic settings. Um, it involved having the 110 base movement with 130 strafe excel as well. And you start with the CE Magnum that they introduced in the Halo 5.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that didn't really gain much of a following at the time, just because I would say Halo 5 was probably still a few months fresh, so as much as people were hating it, they were probably still trying to give it a chance at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm also going to guess that the Halo 1 pistol that you can spawn with in the Halo 5 is the fact that it's also a ridiculously high magnetism version of the original.
Yeah.
I mean, hit scan that probably didn't help the case too much either. So
Yeah. Because it was a projectile.
yeah, so the that project actually died pretty much a few days after it. It didn't even really get. So I pretty much gave up on it and just continued with my daily life until a few months later. I think about July. Someone posted a video of the old school settings made by Caleb Scotts and Sergeant Slaphead. Those settings involved having BR and Magnum starts with default shields, but 150 percent health to somewhat nerf automatics a bit, as well as 120 base movement and 130 straight victory. So
Yeah.
uh, they actually got pretty popular for a little bit there. There's a nice little bit of hype around there. And I played them, and it inspired me to start tinkering again with Evolve. And I actually didn't even have a name for Evolve at the time, but it inspired me to start tinkering with my own settings again. But this time I was like, I can't use the C Magnum, but what is this other thing that people have been asking for? A better utility weapon. People have been asking for in Halo 5 for the pistol to be buffed for the longest time.
Yeah.
At least on Team Beyond. At least in Team Beyond, where the competitive players very want a buff pistol. I should clarify that. And while I wasn't necessarily the first to come up with the settings for the 4-shot Magnum, which involves 70% shields and 150% health for base player traits. Someone named Citry or Citry Style and some other guys worked in that shortly after Halo 5 launched.
Yep.
But I don't exactly know who, but they had started on that. But it was basically that kind of thing with, I believe, mostly default Halo 5 abilities. I don't think that went over too well either. And once again, I don't remember exactly who. I just trying to throw credit where it's due.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, so what if I made these Spy X6 settings and I put that 4-shot pistol on them? People have been wanting the 4-shot pistol, right? And it took the lobby a few games to catch on, because we were still playing old school. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is great," and I was trying to bug them and say, "Hey, why don't we do these settings that have the 4-shot pistol?" They're like, "Nah, because 343 will never put a 4-shot pistol in the matchmaking, so we might as well just stick with the VR." Yeah, that kind of giving up hope already thing. I was like, "Nah, just let's try it."
Yeah.
Once they tried it, and then they tried one game, loved it, and then we went back to playing the old school settings, which was also fun. Some people still prefer the VR, but there was also a lot of people been like, "Come on, let's go back to the old thing. That was more fun." And that's kind of how it started catching on. So we started playing more of that. I will have to say that in order to help compete with old school at the time, I had to also put the movement at 120%, just so that experience was the same.
Yeah.
Since the main difference at the time was
just the pistol.
Yeah. The VR. So now that both of the things have differentiated themselves over time, and I'm also, I believe, on good terms with the old school creators as well, which is I'm really happy about.
Yeah, that's good.
Recently I figured I could go back to having the 110 movement, so that CQC fights aren't quite as drastically awkward as they were.
They definitely play better at 110. They definitely do. The first stream that I had tried playing the settings with was at the 120% movement speed, and it was you probably see it. I'll try and put some gameplay footage in the video now of those settings, but it was very, very fast. It was still really fun, playing without sprint, but I believe the 120% movement speed is actually the speed that you move at when you sprint, isn't it?
It's actually faster.
It's faster. Well, there.
So sprint actually equals 115%. And I know this for a fact because Super 3 stated it themselves in their changes to Halo 5 after the beta.
Mm.
And when they announced the beta changes, the feedback from the beta, they stated that Spring equals 15% boost to default speed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no custom game saying 415% to match, so you can either go with 120, which is probably generally a tad too fast, or 110, which is a tad too slow. So ultimately, it depends on maps.
Yeah.
Um, so but yeah, eventually, uh, evolved. Someone suggested evolve for the name, and I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, there's a guy who used to be on the Team Beyond .net forums called Cooper, I believe. I don't remember his exact gamer tag, but it's something with Cooper, Coop in it somehow. But I kind of want to give him a shout out for the name. It's perfect. Everyone was like, "That's perfect," and I was like, "I'll take it." Uh, so uh, we went through a lot of changes. Well, a lot of minor things. For the first month or so, we did a lot of random classic Forge maps in custom games. So just testing out various maps, seeing what played well. And there was some stuff that stood out, and some stuff that didn't. So yeah, with all that testing, we got and that guy promoting it on Waypoint a little bit. The thread unfortunately got moved to like community creations or something, which I guess technically fits.
It always
On
does, dude.
But unfortunately, it also kind of died shortly after that, despite us trying to keep it alive. But I think it made it to like 10 or 11 pages, or was it like 7? I forget. It made it to a reasonable amount of pages with mostly positive uh, reviews from other lurking classic Halo fans,
Mm.
which was definitely an encouragement. I
To
think we got like half a page on Reddit, but that ultimately died as well. But for the most part, we ended up just doing a lot of. Uh, we've mostly been testing, uh, especially ever since the first couple months. It died down due to the holidays, especially.
Yeah.
Uh, really kind of cut into it, and then once everyone's going back to work, it's it's been very slow, but steady. We've kind of got a weekly lobby that goes on these days with the same old crew. Um, and as we're trying to finish stuff, we're trying to get back to focusing on promoting it more. Because I think that's one of our biggest weaknesses. We haven't really tried advertising it so much as we have been trying to refine it
Yeah.
and promote it as best we can. So if you haven't heard of it, it's probably because we've been busy trying to make sure it's as right as possible.
Yeah.
So
And the maps you've made in the game modes, like it obviously has taken a long time because you guys were saying to me yesterday about some of the Forge updates have broken some of the frame rate, the frame rates in some of the maps. So you've had to go back in and make the maps look a lot more streamlined just to make sure that the experience is consistent.
to clarify that we actually haven't done it to the Forge maps. A couple reasons is first, it would take obviously a lot of time to do that, and two, in order to get them to a playable level, it would kind of ruin what the forger who made that map did to make the map look both good and play well. Um, it mainly be a visual thing, but I would hate to um,
Change someone's
invalid.
work.
Yeah, I would hate to invalidate the work they put into it, especially since many of those maps worked perfectly fine before the last update broke the frame rate. And while given our favorite Forge maps, specifically White Cell and a new version of the Pit by a guy named Fogue, Foge. Not, I think it's Fogue.
Yep.
It's really good. I believe you guys played it actually.
Yeah, oh, a
Um,
lot. Yeah.
it, that and White Cell, their frame rate problems are still very minimal, but the fact that they have it at all is there's a handful of people that don't like it.
I still think they
Uh,
play pretty well, especially White Cell. White Cell plays excellently.
that's actually probably one of our favorite maps
Yeah.
for Evolve. But it's like maps like those. In order to fix the frame rate, we'd have to remove what little already very streamlined detail they have.
Hmm.
Because they're the aesthetic for those are very simple, and I would hate to go into Forge and remove all that because they need to have just a bland gray map,
Yeah.
and I don't want that. I'm sure a lot of people don't want that because then go back to crappy Forge maps.
Yeah.
Looking Forge maps, and Halo 5's Forge is otherwise too good to let that happen. And I don't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Tom French said it won't be happening for Halo 5, so Forge fix. So while we can hope they might surprise us at some point to break that promise, considering how much respect Tom French has gotten,
Yeah, for the
coming out and saying that right off the bat is great, and also at the same time unfortunate.
Yeah.
So the best thing we can do is try to either make do and accept some slight frame rate issues on some maps, or possibly even abstain from them. You've probably noticed a lot of the current Evolve maps on my file share are default map reworks,
yeah.
and that's partially because of frame rate issues on Forge maps. So
But I'd argue a lot of those work even better than some of the originals, like you mentioned earlier about Colosseum, about having all those little clamber spots, and having basically that the sniper side of the map being built around clambering. But with crouch jumping now, it actually adds that skill gap to the map, that you have to come right up to the wall and crouch jump to make your way from one of the little pockets down up to the sniper. So I think that your settings actually make it nearly proves the fact that it does actually take a little bit more skill in Halo to navigate maps, and that navigation of maps is one of the primary things that makes the map fun in itself. If the map itself is built properly, that crouch jumping and whatever else really, that just your movement speed and when you crouch and things like that, it makes a lot more difference than you think, and you really do notice that when you play a map that's meant for these new abilities without the abilities in the sense that you've made them, and find out that it actually works pretty well and it adds to the skill curve, and it's actually a bit more difficult, which is something that was quintessentially Halo, making some of these crazy jumps. Like look at the jump on Lockout in Halo 2. You had to crouch jump to make it from top mid up to the kind of the S2 S3 ramp, like the middle ramp there. So there was always these skill jumps that I think we don't really have them anymore in Halo 5, because like you said, there's clamber, there's the auto stabilize to be able to clamber up to higher heights.
right, and the nice thing to offset the skill is that those also allow you to shoot in melee at the same time, which is and also do it and looking in any direction. You can do it backwards. If you want to, if you were good enough.
Yeah.
Which is also great. There was a moment where I was. There's been several moments where on some Forge maps where there's like these rocks, right, that normally you'd have the clamber on.
Yeah.
Both me and the guy I'm shooting, we both like jump on a rock and then continue to jump, all while shooting at each other at the same time. It's just an experience you don't get in default Halo 5, where you're shooting and you're like, hold on, let me get up this rock. All right, I'm ready.
Let me kind of clamber, yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna keep shooting, and it's just like the Spartans get really old all of a sudden.
Yeah, my knees.
It's. I really miss the Halo 2 and 3 platform style jumping. Like you're playing Mario in the shooter, you're just jumping really high.
Yep. And your
Yeah.
jump was one of the main things about the old Halos. Like even jumping away from battle. Like I know people now in Halo 5 they use a jump tactically to they jump up to their left or something, then kind of turn a little bit, stabilize, and then clamber over something. Whereas that the drop at the end of your jump, like that's one of the things that I think is missing in Halo 5's gameplay. That if someone jumps, you normally expect them to hit the ground, but with clamber and some like thruster and the stabilize, sometimes they can just duke you that way. And I know some
Right.
people think that it adds to the skill curve of the game, but I don't think it does. I think if you decide to put yourself in the air for a second or two, you need to accept the consequences without having some kind of like get out of jail free card for fucking up, if that's what happens.
Right. Yeah. They make the jump or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly. I do think the teen rating has led to some of these mechanics being more widespread as well in the game. That
I do. One thing I do miss about Halo 1, for example, this is kind of a funny thing, but one thing I miss by Halo 1, for example, is playing the campaign and bashing a dead elite for like 20 minutes, and blood just keeps continuing pouring. Actually
right.
decrease when you look at it. It's one of those silly screw around moments, but it's like you can't even do something dumb like that in a
In
Halo
Halo
5.
5, yeah.
No blood, actually.
Yeah.
Uh,
And most of the time you're fighting Prometheans. So it's, yeah. Like you're fighting, there's no character really to them. Then I think we were talking yesterday on Xbox Live about the crawlers and the elites. That it's, the crawlers, there's no personality to them. You just headshot them, they're gone. Whereas the grunts actually had personality. They'd scream, "Run away!" if you killed an elite, and it was kind of funny. You kind of felt sorry for them. Sometimes I'd just run by them because I didn't want to kill them because I kind of felt bad.
all right, or one if you stick one that says, "Oh, not again,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "What? You've been stuck before and you survived?" Okay, yeah.
And they're like,
But
"Demon
anyway,
flare!" and then they just blow up. It's
is you call that a flare? What do you call a grenade?
yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
getting off back to Evolved. So
exactly.
uh,
Good aside though, but
so what are
yes,
some questions you
yeah,
have?
yeah. I had some questions that people wanted to ask you, basically. So one of the ones was, how do you think they would implement Evolved into matchmaking? Do you think it would be an arena playlist, a social playlist, or do you think that they should give you the chance to try and get this, seeing as you have worked about a year on these settings, to give you, to give you maybe a 2-week rotational to see how it goes down in the community, and if you can build from there?
I'm going to guess that if it were to get in matchmaking, it would probably be a 2-week rotational because it'd be like one of their featured stuff. Like, hey, look, you get to try this for a couple weeks. If it clicks, they might keep it. Uh, if not, well, at least we tried.
Yeah,
But see that probably being the most realistic, instead of just immediately having some custom community playlist have its own spot, which I know is usually pretty rare, and it's not exactly something you can just put in the action sack either, which is also
Yeah.
a lot of communities. And it's not, and it's a bit different from say Griffball, which I actually can't remember if it has its own place in Halo 5 or not, but Griffball generally has its own community.
but the thing I
it'd be
think
nice-
what you're saying though is, like, even if it made its way into a rotational playlist and didn't go down favorably, I think it's worth saying right now that doesn't mean that there's less of a demand for classic gameplay. I think that could be like a systemic issue with Halo 5 not having this type of play there since launch, and that people like you have had to go out of their way and spend a lot of time developing these maps and these facets and making this possible to even get it to that kind of stage where it could be considered as a matchmaking playlist. So I think whether it makes it in or not, and whether if it succeeds or fails, that the point of the matter is that it does still, this kind of play does still belong in Halo if people are willing to spend a year working on it, and people like me are willing to, to play the settings and re-download Halo 5 just to play without the abilities. Anyway, sorry I cut you off. Go on.
That's all right. But yeah, ultimately, if I could even get the 2 week feature playlist, that alone would just be an objective accomplished. I
Yeah.
got Fever 3, and they at least gave it a shot.
Yeah.
You know, which if it doesn't make it in Halo 5 at this point, it's honestly understandable. It is a bit late, over a year into the game's life.
But do you
But
think it would detract or add to the actual Halo 5 experience? I think that's the question, that like lateness or like timing completely put aside. Do you think that your settings would add to the Halo experience for not just old players but new players, or do you think that some people would feel like this is a step backwards?
ultimately, at least in regards to the variety that Halo used to be known for, because you have like the default experience, which while it used to be classic, is now what we know as default Halo 5.
Hmm.
Um, you've also always had things like SWAT, Griffball, snipers, action sack. Things that are just very different from the default experience.
Hmm.
Uh, Even if classic Halo um, doesn't necessarily become the base so much, if it at least could uh, uh, acquire a place for itself as uh, its own spot, I think that's could also serve very well.
Yeah.
While I and many others would prefer it to be the base as Halo, I'd be willing to say, hey, um, there is a community they could call the classic Halo community.
Yeah.
And it's just one of many communities that's in the Halo franchise, and uh, uh, we
True.
would like our day in the sun for
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
So
We haven't
I
had
think
that
that's
day since Halo 3, or really Halo Reach with the MLG settings. So
yeah,
it would be nice.
yeah. Heck, Reach also has the anniversary things,
Yeah.
which I did get to play a little bit of that before I started playing Halo 4, and I didn't understand why at the time, but uh, I enjoyed it a lot more than Default Reach.
Yeah.
Despite supposedly like about Default Reach, I like the anniversary stuff more, even though I couldn't explain it at the time. Now I do understand, but it's just one of those things where where's that in Halo 5?
Yeah.
So
Reach is kind of the example, I think, as to how you should structure different styles of play in matchmaking itself, and for customs. Like, there were so many different, especially matchmaking. I mean, you had the Bloom playlists as the standard playlist. You had they had Reach Evolved playlists with the DMR having no Bloom, so like multi-team and playlists like that. Then you had the MLG playlist, which had, there were still armor abilities on maps as pickups, but your base movement speed was set to what it was in Halo 3 with the non-Bloom DMR. And then you had obviously firefight and things like that, and infection and griff boss. So there was all these different game types that Reach actually built into the game to make sure that everyone was happy. And that's why I think Reach is still held as, in highest regard, actually, as probably the best casual Halo game that's released.
Gives us and that's a big thing that's missing from Halo 5 is it it's taken some time for things like Griffball to be added after launch, and some people are patient to wait for that, some people aren't, and ultimately whether or not classic Halo becomes the base core way to play Halo again. Even if it doesn't, it should at least be recognized as one of the core communities of Halo.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people miss playing classic Halo, and
Yeah.
to at least recognize it and have it as its own spot would be great.
Yeah, my reasoning
And
is like the same as yours. If Infection, Griftball, and like SWAT can get all these game types built straight into the game, then why can't a non-sprint way of playing? I mean, Advanced Warfare did that for obviously for Advanced Warfare they had it without some of the exosuit abilities. They had a different playlist,
right.
so I think this could just add to the game. It can't really. I don't think it can detract from the game. I think if people don't like it, they won't play it. I think if classic fans really don't want to play that kind of style, then they'll stick with Master Chief Collection and things like that. But I think people are still hungry to find. People are hungry to want to play the newer Halo games. They just, a lot of them don't feel like they can because it's not set up the way that they like playing Halo. And even if the settings, the magnetism and things like that, like you mentioned, aren't completely perfect as you would like them to be, and that you don't have the tools to tweak them to the degree that you want to, I still think that people would enjoy it. Like, I can see my fan base is very salty about the direction of Halo, and to see my fans on the videos commenting, saying, "Oh, this is great," this is fun, and on stream saying that this is the best fun they've had on Halo 5, it's a credit to you first and foremost, but it's also, in my eyes, hope for Halo that the custom community has built something that 3-4, and it's within the newest game, so newer fans can respect these settings more so maybe than they can Master Chief Collection and the old settings because it's in the canvas that they enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
Not looking to replace default Halo 5 as is. That would be impossible.
Yeah.
But we add just another suite from the custom game modes to matchmaking, which is a long-awaited classic Halo experience.
Yeah.
This Halo 5, honestly, really could only add.
Yeah.
We know the return release would be impossible. You'd have to rebuild Halo 5 from scratch, and that would take too much.
Yeah.
Um,
So do you think a spin-off then, a classic spin-off, or like Halo 6 reverting back to? I don't think it will revert back to the classic way of playing. So it will make it tough to actually build some of these systems into the game to allow for it. Because if they're going to go down the route of sprint and Spartan abilities still, then it's going to be the same problem that you have with Halo 5 with magnetism and the close quarters battles like you were saying. So do you think that a classic spin-off then is probably the best thing that Halo can do?
At least at the start, it probably would be, because then it wouldn't suddenly necessarily be going backwards the way some people view it, but at the same time, it'd still be there for the classic Halo community.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people use lore to justify the new mechanics, and if a classic spin-off was maybe, I don't know, a prequel around one of the books like Ghosts of Onyx, or one of the books where the Spartan 2s were just had just become active, that could be pretty cool. I think maybe fighting the insurrectionists. We haven't seen that yet in Halo at all, and I believe like if people are so concerned with lore having to do with gameplay mechanics, then perhaps this could be one of the things that actually brings it back. That's what I'd like to see anyway. But I wanted to ask you about, are there any modes or game types that you specifically wanted to make for Evolved? I know you have made my two favorites anyway that I've been saying since day one for Halo 5 that I wanted to see back. But are there any modes and game types that you guys developed and would like to develop?
Well, it's hard to say there's anything particularly unique. I mean, we wanted to get some of the basics, and obviously with Halo 5 you can easily start off with Slayer, FFA, CTF, Strongholds, and Assault, which they added later on.
Yeah.
But we definitely wanted to get some old classic modes in there, specifically Oddball and King of the Hill. Um, Oddball was a pain to get to work at first because it's not its own mode. You have to make it, and you have to make it using Assault as a base. And an important thing for anyone trying to make an Oddball compatible map is first. The most important thing is on the map there must be no spawn volumes or anti-spawn volumes that are set to the sports ball game label. And what that is basically if you know how on capture the flag or assault, one team will always spawn on their side of the map. So blue team always spawns at blue base and never at red base, for example. You have to make sure that is removed from the map, or at least you have to take off the sports ball label so that's not applied to assault. Because if it's on for assault, that means if you're trying to play oddball, blue team is always going to spawn at blue base, and red team will always spawn at red base. And it took us a while to figure that out, actually, because we were like, the spawn system is so messed up for oddball, like we can't get to work. What the heck?
Yeah.
But then, I was in Forge at one point, and I just looked at it, I was like, wait a minute. What's this?
The penny dropped.
And then we played a couple of matches, and it played so much better. It played like oddball. You would think oddball would play. So if anyone wants to make a map for oddball, whether it's for evolved settings or just whatever mode, you can put default Halo 5 if you want. Make sure that there's no spawn volume or anti-spawn volume with the game type label sports ball on it. Because you don't want static sided spawns in oddball like you do with CTF. You want people to spawn anywhere based on control, like Slayer, or for oddball. So for oddball, I just want to kind of put it out there. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, various specific changes, I'm sure most people know. I put them on my Team Beyond thread for Evolved as well. But back to the other mode, King of the Hill. This one's fairly recent because with the update they added the minigame stuff. This one's been kind of tricky, just because it involves a lot of scripting and trying to figure out stuff. I still don't know 90% of the scripting stuff for it. Pretty much just took the setup of scripts that one guy took from the setup of scripts from one of the weird maps that 343 put in as a test for mini games.
Yeah. And
I pretty much applied that to a few maps and figured out how to at least make it compatible. So it works, which I guess is most we can ask for at the moment. But any fine tuning will take some further investigation into the scripting.
I think people will be really, really surprised when they download these settings and they play, oddball, they play King of the Hill again, and they see how well these settings actually work. And I think it's more like you're a perfectionist. Obviously, you can tell by the way that you're describing the settings and how much information you have. But I think that people are going to be pretty happy with exactly what you've made right now, dude. That it's. I mean, I had a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, who's critical of the game, say, "Oh my God, we're playing oddball." It's it's something that it's so entrenched in a Halo player's psyche. It's my favorite game type, having played it in FFA and in Halo 3 and in Halo 2. It's just one of those things that it never should have been taken out of the game ever. It's one of those quintessential Halo gameplays or game types. The same with King of the Hill. And that the fact that you guys have done it, I know you say you need more tweaks, but I'll tell you what you have right now is so playable, and it's admirable that you still want to improve it.
Yeah. one quote I'm trying to learn to live by recently is you know being growing up. My mother would tell me it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm always like, yes, it does. But kind of going off what I'm often told sometimes, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it can always be improved.
Mm.
And that's kind of the way I'm trying to look at things more these days.
And that's why you guys haven't quit. Yeah.
Still a perfectionist, but I'm trying to look at it that way. So, but back to more game modes.
Yeah.
If we wanted to start off with some of the bare bones essentials,
Mm.
most of which we at least had in Halo 5, and the last two, Oddball and King of the Hill, we had to figure out how to properly add those to a playable state.
Yeah.
A couple other modes that I've heard a couple people ask, maybe not so much from the competitive-minded community at Team Beyond, but at least from a handful of people here and there, kind of including myself. Some sort of VIP slash
Yes.
regular side.
Yeah.
I would love to have. I personally love the whole the top the guy in the lead has a marker on his head. You get bonus points for killing him,
Yeah.
but he can use that to bait people. I thought that was great in Halo 4 personally, and it could even be applied. It could be applied like that to FFA or to a team setting.
Yeah.
I'd love to figure out how to implement that via the minigames. Also, there's some hidden love for extraction, also from Halo 4. Here
Yep.
Once
Yeah.
again,
I didn't mind that game type. It was good.
some people would argue that it's a
Call of Duty game type.
oh, well, okay, I guess I can kind of say one. But some people would generally say that King of the Hill is better, but I'm not sure that would be the case because I consider them to be fairly different enough to be distinguished.
Yeah.
But I will admit I am partially biased towards a couple of these modes just because, once again, I am unfortunately a Halo 4 kid, so who's playing these modes. I would love to get them in, but I also understand they're not necessarily the priority.
Yeah.
The Oddball and King of the Hill were. So that's it for the modes predominantly. Oh wait, actually,
Yeah.
not necessarily game type specific, but more of a team side specific thing. Most of our settings, since we've started, have generally been based around 4v4 gameplay. However, recently we're trying to experiment with some optimized 2v2 stuff. Something along the lines of like not 2v2 on default maps, but more like if you remember the Forge 2v2 playlist that was out for Halo 5 a while back. Something along the lines of that, maps made for 2v2, and that are also kind of specifically styled a bit more for to lean a bit more towards Halo 1 style gameplay. Once again, competitive settings for that game are 2v2. So kind of using that as an idea for 2v2 is something we're currently trying to experiment with. And at some point, I would also like to even see if we could get the work for BTB, that we could have a classic Halo experience for
some of the big team maps. Yeah.
That we could have a classic experience for the all the bare essentials, 4v4, 2v2, and even BTB at some point.
And multi-team as well. I know multi-team works. We were playing multi-team on my streams the other day, and they work fine as long as people switch their teams out to different colors, which is really good. I think multi-team King of the Hill could be a cool one. We noticed yesterday that red and blue team are the only teams that can score on King of the Hill, whereas purple team can't. So that'd definitely be a cool one to have, like a
Yeah.
multi-team playlist and have multi-team oddball as well. That works. That one works fine. But having like loads of these different game types for like game nights and just yeah, it'd be fucking cool, man.
Yeah. Part of a classic Halo.
Yeah,
I miss it. Yeah. So, yes, with that out of the way, I guess that's it for like game mode goals. What else do you got for me?
yeah. I wanted to ask you about like trying to find time and your struggle with doing this. Like clearly, if you've done this over a year, that it's been a real kind of a dedication that you've been like you mentioned to me prior to this that you know you have a roommate, so clearly you're in college and that you're not you're obviously not someone who's you're obviously not working like 9 to 5 or whatever. You're a student if I'm gathering everything correctly, and that you're doing this in your spare time because you really love the game. So has it been really
I,
difficult to find time?
Actually, it has been. I will clarify that I have yet to go to college, um, uh, but currently I'm working full time.
I was
So
completely wrong.
yeah, I wanted to save you from that, but
That's
uh,
okay.
but yeah. So I'm working. I would like to get into college at some point. Maybe even go into game design. Doing something like Evolved is uh, inspiring that a little bit, but I'm still not too sure about it. But that's real life stuff. Otherwise, I'm generally working full time, and I live at least a half hour away from my job, so that's adds on an extra hour.
Yeah.
So it's generally a struggle to uh, wake up, see what people are saying on the forums and in the Discord, um, which, mind you, recently hasn't been the most often. It's been pretty sporadic.
Yeah.
And go to work, bust out my shift, and then by the time I get home, I only have a few hours, and trying to spend time in Forge to edit that stuff can be very boring, and it's almost like working in itself.
Yeah.
So I often don't do it just because I'm want to relax
Yeah.
and enjoy my evening. So a lot of times I'll just I'll play something else.
Yeah.
But in general, it's been a bit of a struggle trying to find time for it. There's been a nice handful of people that have been a great help on Discord. There's honestly too many to list.
Yeah.
Most of them are play testers that offer some good feedback from the competitive mindset, and then there's some other people that more directly help me with testing stuff. Like my buddy, the Soul Flame, has been for as a source of encouragement and helping me stick with this, because there have been a couple of times I have wanted to quit.
Yeah.
And just say it's done and let it go. But he's kept me going. And also my friend OG Nick, he is our resident map breaker. He's going to find all the dumb places you can jump onto that you shouldn't be able to in the map. And he's going to wait until we're playing a game to show you.
Yeah, Salt showed me one on Riptide yesterday, where you can, he showed me a cool one.
People like that, along with our regular group of playtesters, they've generally been pretty good at helping keep this going, as slow as it has been recently.
Yeah. Well, I hope now that like with this interview, with a full interview with you, just kind of getting to know you and getting to know the settings and where they came about from and where you would like to take them, and that you guys are still working hard at them, that this will provide the classic community anyway like a more kind of diverse option for playing classic Halo. Because right now, man, it's just really MCC, and if people have a good PC, it's Halo Online that a lot of people play. So
Right.
it's not exactly the, or people still play, Reach or Halo 3, but I wouldn't really call Reach classic. So it's kind of, we're limited in our options, and I know a lot of people want to play. Like, I mean, there's so many options now with the Halo 5 sandbox. You said basically every weapon but the BR works because of its magnetism and kill time. But like using all the different weapons and everything, like you can create really cool little diverse custom games and cool little game modes. And I think you guys have done. I think it's really great. I think it looks good. It plays well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this interview is definitely some newfound encouragement to once again keep going.
Good, dude.
And
No, don't stop.
I'm both flattered and humbled because it's like to make these settings, I ultimately just I took a lot of ideas that some other people whom I tried to credit in this interview,
Yeah.
and just roll them into one. And it happened to get somewhat popular.
Yeah.
So at least among the classic customs communities, because there's a lot of different things out there. If you like, you search the custom birds, you search classic. There's a million different things that will pop up.
Mm.
So but they're all like, one guy, he decided to make his own settings like that.
That's exactly what I did. I just went in and turned off all the abilities and just threw on the Halo 2 BR and thought to myself, this is going to work. And then it was, it was more fun, in my opinion, than the regular Halo 5 settings, but it wasn't, it wasn't the droid I was looking for anyway. So that was really it.
Yeah, so Jerome, so yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about this point. I'm just once again
Yeah,
flattered.
if you have anything else to say, yeah, just definitely jump into it. If you have anything else you wanted to mention about maybe like, where do you want to take it into the future? Like what more projects are you working on, maps and things like that? Because I know the maps work well already, but I know you guys did show me some the Halo 1.5 maps.
Yeah, that's those are.
Or is that a secret?
Well, I mean, I guess it's all right to let people know that we are working on more stuff. But ultimately, those are maps for the 2v2 settings that we've been working on. That I was telling you about. So that's pretty much where those fall in.
Okay.
And there is currently nothing going on for the BTB at the moment, just because that one kind of want to save for last, just because once again it requires a much higher player count than it requires at least double the player count that we often get.
Yeah.
To reliably test a full match of BTB, and so, and once again we pretty much not have looked around in any BTB maps for that as much as I would like to. So that's one of those things. If we do get a little bit more of a following, I'd be down to do that, but it's kind of on the back burner until then.
I'd say definitely contact Duquesne or some of these other like well-known kind of YouTuber forgers about that, so that they can put the word out. I'll definitely tag a lot of these YouTubers in the tweet for this interview, just to let them see that there is an alternative, and that you have expressed yourself very very well this entire commentary on why you did it, where you wanted to go, where it could go, the passions behind it. Like, I mean, you're working and you're doing this when you come home. I do completely understand, when you come home, some days I have my stream days, and some days I come home at half an hour before I'm meant to start, and you just think to yourself, what the hell? But it's
All
just
right.
yeah. But the
If only I paid for this.
yeah, it'd be easy.
Like that'd be at least like what, 5 years or so down the road.
Yeah.
So
And I know that some of the Installation Zero One guys have played these settings. Classy Ham has played these settings and he enjoys them and has already uploaded a commentary about it. So, I mean, you're on the radar, man, for some of these cartographers and just settings makers. So,
Not really much you can say. Just once again, uh, flattered that people like it that much, and at the same time humbled because I still feel like I haven't done much. But,
yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.